Hello. So let me welcome all of you to this evening's official side event that HATOF has been doing over the years for the past 6 years. But before I do that, let me just observe the necessary protocols. So, distinguished COP28 delegates present here, both in person and online, you are most welcome to HATOF's 8th official side event on a row, successfully done in collaboration and in partnership with various national and international stakeholders. And today is no exception. We have institutions from Ghana and the UK present here. Ladies and gentlemen, the urgency and the scale of climate risks and biodiversity loss have brought the need for a more sustainable economy to the top of the global and the national agenda. Sustainable finance is emerging as an effective institutional mechanism to help finance the SDGs and the Paris Agreement, because such a financial approach aims to achieve positive and social, including environmental outcomes, while pursuing financial returns simultaneously. Today's side event, among other things, will look at highlights that will address crucial role of partnership in bridging the finance gap for nature-based solutions, i.e. REDD+, to climate change, and the potential for women and the youth to play a very significant role in accelerating climate solution. Before I invite the panelists onto the stage, I will briefly share the contribution of HATOF Foundation to fostering partnership and promoting inclusiveness in sustainable finance initiatives. So briefly, I'm going to look at what HATOF represents at a glance. So legally, HATOF was incorporated in Ghana in 2001 and registered in Canada 2 weeks ago. We had the privilege of receiving an official legal incorporation from the government of Canada just last week. The HATOF is going to operate as an NGO in Canada. We are in the process of formalizing our registration in the Gambia, which will add to HATOF's global exploits. Yeah, so in terms of partnerships, we hold admission or an observer status with the UNDP, the Green Climate Fund, the CBD, the UNCCD, CAN International, and the latest one that we had was the United Nations Environment Program, or the UN Environment, as a member of the governing admitted to the governing council. So in terms of partnership, over the years, we've worked with a number of organizations, i.e. MESTI, Forestry Commission, still our strong partner, Environmental Protection Agency. We work with Global Environment Facility. We work with the French Embassy. We also work strongly with Ministry of Finance and also Africa Development Bank, Energy Commission, and City here in Boston in the United States of America. Yeah, so in terms of what we have been doing, both at the national and the global level, through the activities over the years, we've been engaged in leveraging technical and financial resources for the SDGs and the Paris Agreement. Before that, we've been engaged with the Kyoto Protocol and other multilateral processes. Let me just highlight quickly 4 recent activities that we have undertaken as a result of our partnership within the global and the national scale. The first one that comes to mind quickly is HATOF. HATOF is a project that came out of a research-related project initiated by Lancaster University. We also implementing the GCF CSO readiness program now, ongoing, and then we are also doing the Ghana Share Landscape Emission Reduction Project. And then, interestingly, we are also working on pro bono for the Ministry of Finance in Ghana. So in terms of the HATOF, this is what we did in one of the basic schools in Ghana, looking at how they can convert their waste into energy for use in science laboratories and then enhance their interest in science education. Yeah, so in terms of the GCF readiness, what we are doing, the project title is looking at capacity building and knowledge management for climate change for civil society organizations in Ghana. The funding came from the Green Climate Fund, and CSE Senegal is the delivery partner. We received close to $500,000 that we are using, and the project is going to end next year by August, thereabouts. And at the end of the day, one key thing that is going to come out is a high-quality concept note, which will be based on CSO's climate change agenda for Ghana. So you can see the project launch was done in the country. Then there are some of the pictures. We did that at the Coconut Grove Hotel in Accra. Then we are also engaged, like I said, with the Ministry of Finance, trying to see how we can implement this project, because you know readiness is the owners are Ministry of Finance. So we partner with them to put Ghana once again on the global scale as the first NGO in Africa to be approved when we submit the readiness project to the GCF, and the second in the world from the GCF. So the training is going to look at some of these things that we have outlined over there. We're going to train about 40 CSOs how they can develop quality concept notes. The training is going to be on in 3 stages. We are going to do basic, intermediate, and then final. We want them to understand the multilateral process from the basic level to the intermediate level and then to the advanced level, where they will be able to develop project proposals. Because, as you are aware, a number of funds are being created. So we need the capacity to access the funds. So in terms of our strong partnership with the Forestry Commission, we are undertaking this project at the northern part of the country. The funding is in excess of $150,000. We're going to establish 81,000 seedling capacity, where about 200 women will be benefiting from this partnership, including their children and the entire community. Yeah, so you can see some of the partnerships that we have engaged ourselves in over the years. Yeah, so that is the project site. When we established, we are clearing the land for the nursery at Boli. The other one is at Zonga or something. Yeah, so these are the women at the nursery doing the daily watering of the seedlings, arranging them. We are teaching them nursery management at the same time, how they can also improve basic accounting skills. Again, like I indicated, we are collaborating with the finance institutions in Ghana. So we are moving on, trying to support the government of Ghana to implement the NDCs. Thank you very much. So, without much ado, I am now privileged to invite the distinguished panelists to take their seats at the high table. The first on the list, because I'm very gender sensitive, is my own Mrs. Roselyn Fosuah-Adjei, Director, Climate Change Directorate, Forestry Commission of Ghana. Give her more applause. So under her leadership, we have received so much money from the Red Plus initiative. The second person, I told you I'm very gender sensitive, is, because we are in the UNDP, so please pardon me if you are Mrs., but I'm calling you Miss No Wahala. Miss Roka Sanusi, Executive Director, Ghana Innovation Center. Then my own and only one, Dr. Tutu Benifo, Acting Director, EPA, and the current focal point for UNDP. The next person is, I said I'm going to report him to the wife, but I won't do that again. As Mr. Fosuah-Adjei, Jemfi, Principal Economic Officer at the Ministry of Finance. The last, okay, I nearly jumped. Then, just as I indicated earlier on, HATOF cuts across Africa and Europe. So we have in our mix from the UK, Lancaster University, Dr. Akanimo Odon, Head of African Strategic Partnership, Lancaster University. The last but not the least, Mr. Kojojan, Risk Manager, Ghana Infrastructure Fund. Thank you very much. So this is how I am going to moderate this work. So I'm giving you 1 minute each so that you can tell the audience who you are and what you do. So I will go in the reverse gear. Kojo, the floor is yours.
Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. My name is Kwaju Kwachi Jan. I am the risk manager for the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund and also lead the sustainability agenda of the institution. Yes, thank you.
My name is Dr. Akanimo Odon. I am the head of Africa Partnerships for Lancaster University. And my role basically involves designing sustainable projects and programs as a cut across between UK and also our different African countries at 3 different levels, so government, academia, and also industry.
Yes, the next person.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ruka Sanusi, and I run the Ghana Climate Innovation Center, which is a national business incubator for climate entrepreneurs all over Ghana.
Can I go on?
Yes.
Good evening. Roselyn, Fosuah-Adjei is the name. I work with the Forestry Commission as Director of Climate Change. I also do some work for the Forest and Climate Leaders Partnership as Ghana's co-chair Sherpa. Practically everything to do with the Paris Agreement, Article 5, transactions. My office does that on behalf of the Forestry Commission.
Yes.
Hi, hello. My name is Daniel, and I work for the EPA of Ghana. I have so many friends here, and nice meeting everybody. Thank you.
You are the current national focal point for UNDP.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Fosuah-Adjei with the Ministry of Finance and also a number of things in terms of finance and climate, working on the GCF-related issues, also the Global Shield, V20, the African risks, looking at virtually disaster risk financing and mobilizing financing for climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. So, this is how it's going to be. I'm going to pose a question to the panelists, then they will take their time to respond to the question. When that is done, after all of them have responded to their questions, then I'll give the audience also the opportunity to ask questions if there are questions or if they have any contributions to make. So, without much ado, Madam Roselyn highlights the crucial role of partnerships in bridging the finance gap for nature-based solutions to climate change and the potential for women and youth to play a significant role in accelerating climate solutions.
Thank you, Honorable Dotse. So before I go into your question, as we were coming into the room, there was, I think, a question about how, I don't know if the word is to use late or by the timing of this event, and also a few other things. And my response was that for some of the events, we attend because of solidarity and loyalty. And it is this kind of relationship we have with HATOF, or we've had over the years. Today, people who are new to COP will see Ghana has a pavilion. Before 3 years ago, it wasn't so. The key events that we had were a HATOF space where we would do either Ghana Day to showcase what we were doing, and practically it's been this side event. So for some of us, even if we have our agenda so filled to the brim, we will still make time for the HATOF engagement. And it's about the power of relationships. And because, for example, the Forestry Commission only started having side events because you provided us with a space. at Katowice, at Madrid. The whole booth was even given to us to do exhibitions, to be able to showcase what we are doing in the country, because there was no space. We just came to COP. Either you are hanging at one cafeteria or the other, or you just attend people's side events. I mean, apart from the negotiators, and then you go back. The same translates, I believe, into the sort of partnership conversation we are having now, and the fact that people have to hold hands to get to where we are. If you don't build the right relationships, you can't even build the partnerships that would help you leverage the sort of support you need. And from one thing to another, I mean, you spoke about the work you are doing up north. From you lending us a space, that space transitioning into our engagements, we getting into the GCF conversation. Now HATOF is leading a wing of that GCF conversation on the ground. That's really what we need to do in this space. And now it's not about what's on paper, it's about what we tangibly see happening. So partnerships are important, relationships are crucial, and the whole climate change conversation as it is now is affecting everybody. It's not about the developed world, or I don't really like getting into the space of the blame game. No matter who you blame, climate change is happening. It's either you up your game and get into the space, because the unfortunate thing is that we who are blaming are the most affected. So if you keep sitting on the fence and keep blaming, if there should be a disaster right now, even if it affects the developed world so much, their response measures are nowhere compared to what we have. We are still going to suffer. So the crucial role of partnerships in country, out country are very, very important. We need to build the right networks. We need to socialize our own story as we have it. Recently, it's dawned on me that most of the things that we come to accept as practices are things that people came up with. They were not there. People had to institutionalize these. So nothing really stops us also from socializing what we think has to be the way that we have to go. And for the Forestry Commission, the work that we do, particularly on REDD+, even before we came into the REDD+ space, we've had a forest and wildlife policy that has been revamped to look at the value of community engagement, building partnerships with community leaders, using the community resource management approach. The fact that we can't just be in our district offices and expect that we are going to have our forest intact. We can have guardians who are actually in touch with the resources, who actually own these resources. We are only custodians and managing on behalf, but we don't own it as a commission. And from that stage, getting into now the climate change conversation with the REDD+ mechanism, having our first program within the cocoa landscape that is built heavily on partnerships from the private sector angle, from local communities. For the first time, we have 3 of our local community members coming to COP. Honorable, you have been in the REDD+ space for a long time. This has never happened. And they are not here with a story that anybody has told them. They are here with their own experience and story from the 15 years of engagement that we've had. Exactly. And then we go into the shared landscape. Again, we see the value of government agencies. We see the value of civil society, private sector coming in as well. And also the GCF giving us the grants because we've been able to leverage co-financing. So partnerships are crucial. We can't ever overemphasize them. And they have a huge potential for what we want to do for the generations that are going to be most affected by climate change. I mean, women undoubtedly, the science shows, the research shows, disproportionately affected. If you get into Africa, our economies are largely agrarian, and women are doing a lot of the jobs. What happens when there are stresses, when there are droughts, when there are low yields? Already, if you talk about impoverishment, if you talk about malnutrition, it's about women, it's about children. One way or the other, men get to be off the hook a bit. Maybe they're also affected by their physique, doesn't let us see that a lot. So there's a lot that the youth can do now, and they are not the future, they are the today. And there are so many spaces for them. I believe that when Ruka gets to speak, for example, what the GCIC does with its incubation, promoting a lot of businesses, helping them, hand-holding, grants, capacity building, technical assistance. So this is what I would have to say for now. I mean, partnerships are crucial. I have seen this in my 17 years of being with the Forestry Commission, the years, 14 or 15 years of working on REDD+, working on climate change, and the wonderful communities that we have both at the global and also at the national level and also at the subnational level. I mean, we can never attribute any success we have as within the RED+ space only to government. It's been through different stakeholder engagements and different partners bringing their support, bringing their resources to bear. Thank you.
Very much. So from Africa, Ghana, straight away to United Kingdom, Lancaster University. Why is there? Okay, so I was thinking you roll your. So, Dr. Akan, you are going to tell us the power of equitable partnerships in addressing the UN SDGs and the climate crisis in sub-Saharan Africa. The floor is yours.
You said the power of what? Equitable.
Yes.
Okay.
The power of equitable partnerships.
Thank you very much. So, as it happens, in my job, I travel a lot. I actually fundamentally deal in partnerships. And the way I like to say it is this. You almost have to first understand that you approach this maybe at 3 levels, I would say. And it's important because to be able to access sustainable finance, especially in the era we live, you cannot work or operate in a bubble. And so the way I want to break it down is, first and foremost, multidisciplinary type partnerships on specific projects. And secondly, geographical type partnerships. And finally, partnerships within what you might call the triple or quadruple helix model. And they're all very important for different reasons. I did a survey, a partnership project, and we had an assessment, just to give an example of what I mean, an assessment of, I think, 15 Nigerian universities to understand how many MOUs they have. And at the end of the assessment, we discovered that the average Nigerian university of good size have maybe 30, 20, 15 MOUs, but all the MOUs are with UK universities. When we now assessed how many MOUs they have with themselves, other Nigerian universities, it was almost non-existent. Okay? Now, if you're applying for funding at that level, funding fundamentally is built on the fact that you're trying to solve a problem that is very, very clear based on the consortium model where you can show the presence of the problem at different sectors or different geographical regions, shows the impact of being able to apply that kind of funding. And so when you are focused on just, if you like, transnational type partnerships, fundamentally, if you are depending on funding from the outside, it almost limits your power to request for funding because there's always a political dimension to requesting those kinds of funding. And so how are you able to create that kind of a balance? So fundamentally, it's important, therefore, that there's first and foremost a structural balance between partnerships on the ground at different levels, whether it's more disciplinary, whether it's across segments, say academia, industry, and government, or whether it's actually geographically. I remember I was giving a session or giving a talk to a room of different professors in the university, talking about how to assess funding. And I was thinking, well, as academics, how much partnerships do you have with industry partners, which can provide a very strong private sector dimension to what you do? At some point, a prof at the back turns and said, Doc, you are going too far, asking us to make partnerships with industries outside. You haven't even asked if we are already partnerships with the department on campus next door. So that kind of breaks the barrier. How are you able to develop equitable partnerships? You have to go as a unified force. If you're applying for funding and you're already destructured, or there's already a disconnect, or there's no structure within yourself, then people take you on seriously. So why am I saying this? Equitable partnerships at that kind of level becomes powerful once you've established a sense of balance within your geographical region. How are you working with folks on the ground? How are you working with other partners within that sector? Because the way I say this, academia says where we have knowledge, come to us. Industry says where we have money, come to us. Government says we have power, come to us. I was in a room and a lady was like, hey, Doc, what about NGOs and civil societies? I said, well, what do they have? And she says, well, they have rights, so they come to us. And as long as you're operating in bubbles, nothing is ever going to happen. So partnerships that are equitable fundamentally comes from your understanding of your peculiarity, your strengths and your weaknesses, enough to seek for other partners, and how can you create that balance, be able to access sustainable finance? And which is the reason why, for me, young women or young people and women play an extremely important role for that kind of a balance. I think I'll stop at this point.
Thank you very much. Let's give it to him. He has a lot of things to say, but maybe because of time. So now, we are here because the UNDP decided to bring us here. So I will straight away move to Dr. Benefo. Doc, from where you sit, whether you are standing or you are sleeping, you are the focal point of Ghana. And you have listened to several people talk. What opportunities do you see for enhancing sustainable finance, even among the two people who spoke and the larger audience here? What opportunity do you see for Ghana?
What a difficult question. I don't know whether I have an answer. Thank you very much, Honorable Dotse, Honorable Dr. Dotse. Thank you. Colleagues, I think I just want to take a step back and ask a very simple question, and that is, what are we asking for? We keep talking about climate action, but we keep forgetting about one very fundamental question, and that question is this: who are we working for? And what do they need? And are we canvassing for what they need? And therefore, what are we asking for? That question is what I keep hearing from many people that I've listened to. And I'll give you 3 examples. When you look at the current just energy transition policy that was launched by the president in New York, the government of Ghana needs to mobilize $550 billion to be able to ensure the orderly transition of our current energy system to a sustainable energy system in future. $550 billion. My colleague from Minister of Finance is sitting here, Adjei is there. They have prepared what we call the Ghana Climate Prosperity Plan, right? We need to mobilize $2.8 billion every year to be able to implement that document. My sister Roselyn, and let me focus on the forest plantation development strategy. Let me focus on the Rare Plus strategy. Put them together and estimate how much you're asking for. The flip side is that, who will pay for this? And here is a country or countries that are not in the position to mobilize so much money. And yet, they suffer the brunt of climate change most compared to others. And yet, they are financially vulnerable. Give us some 2 numbers. We need to really deal with the issue about pursuing a fiscal consolidation policy in Ghana. Rising public debt, post-COVID tax revenue is not as much as we want. The government of Ghana need to deal with the IMF policies. So the fiscal space is not enough for us to mobilize this money. So what do we do? On top of that is that there is also an agency to deal with climate action. All right. And let me end by saying this, that the unfortunate occurrence that happened in Ghana a month ago, where the good people of Volta region had to be subjected to this unfortunate event of flooding, is a manifestation of the extent of the agency of climate action. So you put them together. We are asking so much money. There's not much fiscal space to mobilize resources. There's agency. What do we do? And that, for me, is the power of partnership. That the government having the power, the private sector having the money, the CSOs having the rights, ought to work together to deliver this on behalf of the people that we are working for. And that is my view. And many people are getting tired, and to be honest with you, of coming to these meetings. We are dealing with around 50,000 people here. And if this platform is to maintain its credibility, then there's a case in Ghana. What is the case? The case where the people of Volta region have been subjected to the impact of unforeseen climate damage. And that, for me, is the power that we need to leverage to address the issues in Ghana. That is what I hear. Honorable Dotse, thank you.
I'll come back to you for 2 other questions, so you take your breath. Yes, so the finance might will be, well, after we've listened to them, then you tell us how much. Yeah, so I'll move straight to Sister Sanusi. Yes, I've heard about you, I've seen fantastic things that you've been doing. Tell us how and what are the challenges and opportunities that present your forward move. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me just say, good evening to everybody, and thank you for staying. It's quite late. Some people got in this morning, and they're still here. Got in from from Ghana or various other countries. So we appreciate you staying for this session. So, just to contextualize my response, I'll just talk very briefly about what we do at the Ghana Climate Innovation Center, which, as I said earlier, is the national business incubator for small and growing businesses across Ghana. Why do we, Dr. Benefus asked the question, who are we working for and why? Well, we work for the small and growing business sector of climate entrepreneurs in Ghana. That's entrepreneurs who have a response, a business, a climate action response. So whether you're in climate smart agriculture, energy efficiency, solar power, water management, domestic waste management, plastic issues, and all of that, and you're responding to climate change issues, you can apply to be at the incubator, and we'll provide you with, amongst many other things, financing to scale your business. Now, why are we focusing on the business sector? Because globally, the business sector is one of the biggest, largest emitting group of greenhouse gases, because of the way that we fuel our cars, the way that we heat our homes, the way that we cool our homes. So the whole idea of the global CICs, Climate Innovation Centers, is that we work with small and growing businesses who are the business leaders of tomorrow to ensure that their strategies and their operations, they start to use low carbon pathways, or they deepen the work that they're doing in using low carbon pathways, so that we're driving down greenhouse gas emissions as an SME community. And we focus on SMEs because SMEs, all over Africa, contribute the largest to gross domestic, to GDP. In terms of workforce as well, in Ghana it's 83%. 91% of businesses that are registered in Ghana are small and growing businesses. So if you want to use business as a force for good, if you want to create and build a crop of sustainable businesses, you must start with the small and growing business sector. Now, we can't do our work without partnerships. And we also can't do our work without funding. And sustainable financing comes into that. Let me talk about the businesses first and foremost, before I talk about the institutional issues that we have. Our work is funded by donors. Pure and simple. I spend half of my time looking for partnerships, looking for funding. And I think we're blessed to have really had an enormous amount of funding, because we look for people who have values and vision alignment to what it is that we are doing. We don't just take money from anybody. It also has to be aligned to our own values and to our own mission. But here's the thing. Entrepreneurs and businesses are poorly funded. whether they're looking for banking support, funding from non-bank financial institutions, you find that the demands of those institutions on these businesses are really prohibitive, right? So to deal with this climate emergency that we know that we all have, to drive down greenhouse gas emissions, to come up with climate innovation of how to cool our homes, our entrepreneurs need funding, but they can't get it locally. The entrepreneurs that we incubate, the vast majority of them, when they exit the incubator, they are accessing financing from outside of Ghana. That needs to change. Our banking system, and even for private equity and venture capital, we're finding that the ticket sizes that they are requesting for the businesses to come to them for $5 million, $10 million, it's just too big. So in terms of sustainable financing, we really need to develop new instruments, better instruments. We need to contextualize our financing to the needs of the country, right? To the business climate action needs of the country. There are a number of new tools around. I was at before I left Ghana, actually, the day I was leaving, I spoke at the climate finance a conference that was actually looking at this very issue. And there are some new tools that Ghanaians are thinking about, and we're sourcing funding for that. But, in terms of also institutionally for partnerships, I agree with all of my colleagues that have spoken. We can't do without partnerships, right? Our work, whether it's a school of sustainable entrepreneurship that we run, headed by my colleague who's sitting over there, whether it's policy, the policy work that we do for a green economy, all our work is delivered through partners. Imani is working on us around policies for green economy, fiscal policy in particular, that we need in Ghana for that transition to low carbon pathways. So, and we're also doing some work with Standard Chartered Bank, who actually want to fund the youth and women they call them the Future Makers Program, who want to fund people who are investing of their intellect, their intellectual capital, their resources in business climate action. So we're working with them as their delivery partner for one of their main programs around business climate action, and a whole host of other organizations. So together with my colleagues, I reiterate that we can't do without partnerships, and we need to reinvent how we are, the financial aspect for fueling this transition to a low-carbon economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much for such a deep revelation from your end. Yes, Dr. Benifo touched my heart by zeroing down to what happened to the good people of the Volta region a couple of weeks ago. We've all seen it on the news, in television and everything. Infrastructure was greatly affected. And then he was even telling me that there are some carbon credits projects that also disappeared. So, Mr. Jam, you are being tasked by the government of Ghana to provide infrastructure. You have the money or you don't have the money. Tell us the challenges that you have been confronted with over the years, and how easy or difficult is it for you to do your work? Because we need green infrastructure, resilient infrastructure, whatever infrastructure. Now the schools in Volta region, the clinics, the people's homes, and everything is submerged. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Dotse. I must say that when Dr. Benifo was talking and he mentioned issues to do with budget constraints, it's not something that is just with Ghana. I think almost all African countries have that challenge. And as a result of that, the government of Ghana found this new vehicle, which is the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, to allow us to tap into private sector funding for infrastructure projects within the country. We've been around for the past 6-7 years, and there are a couple of projects that we've done. So the Takoradi Port expansion project that is currently underway, the Terminal 3 that you see was also funded by the GIF together with the African Development Bank and the Development Bank of Southern Africa, and there are a couple of other projects within the telecommunications sector, as well as within the transport sector as well. I must say that I think our projects in the past did not consider issues to do with resilience in any way. And therefore, as the climate impacts on us, there's a likelihood that this is not just going to be the end of the projects that we are going to see getting devastated as a result of climate. There's a need for us to make our projects more resilient going into the future. Partnerships, I believe, that are very important, and for us as GIF, so far we've been very successful with this because of the way we've positioned ourselves. One, we've been able to raise about 85 million USD from the French Development Agency, mainly for climate-related projects. And then we've been able to raise about $75 million also from the African Development Bank as well. There are other partners at the IFC, and then the GCA, Global Center for Adaptation, which is also helping us with some level of technical assistance. One thing that I have realized, having worked with the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund for a couple of years now, we all seem to talk about climate projects, we talk about pledges that are being made. Pledges have been made at almost every COP. And we keep hearing it. Even today, pledges have been made. The point is that, are we ready as Ghana or as Africa to tap into these resources? Sometimes we think by just making projects, saying the project is climate friendly or it is a climate related project, funds will just flow. Apart from grants, I don't think our projects have been well prepared for such kind of funding. And therefore, I think as a country, it is important that we look into this. Our projects are not prepared. I have had a couple of meetings with the Ministry of Finance team, and sometimes when you look at the projects that come from the various ministries, they are all more or less public goods. And who would want to fund those public goods with their money? It is about making the projects bankable. Is the project prepared adequately to be able to generate any cash flow towards repayment of the facility? I think that is a core issue that we need to address. And that will come from capacity building within the country itself. Because project sponsors go around with projects and they don't take into consideration these issues. They don't have the knowledge, they don't even know that their projects are supposed to be made resilient. And even if you are to ask them to make them more resilient or to make them more climate friendly, then it comes with some form of additional cost. Who then provides that funding for the additional cost that it comes? Because if I have a project and I'm not really bothered, I can still fund the project without any additional funding or making it climate friendly. I will go ahead and do it. By telling me that it should be more climate friendly, then there should be an agency who should be able to provide that kind of funding. And at what price is that cost? Is that funding coming? At what price? These are the issues that I think we need to be considering, and we shouldn't forget that projects should not just be climate, but then they should also be bankable. I think once we're able to do that we can tap into the funds that we all always talk about. I don't think we are prepared as a country at this point. We should get to the point where we prepare projects adequately. If not, we'll continue to have these pledges and will not be able to tap into the funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The projects have to be technically and financially bankable. Foster, you've been around for a couple of years. You've worked very hard from the perspective of the Ministry of Finance. I just want to pick your thoughts on 2 or 3 questions. How does the ministry takes on the concept of sustainable finance? And what sustainable financing opportunities exist in Ghana and for other stakeholders? That is one. The second one is there. Also, is there any collaborative partnership the ministry is involved in to accelerate climate action in Ghana? The last one is, how should the private sector, NGOs, governments, African Union member states position themselves? I think it's running across when it comes to sustainable finance for addressing climate issues. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. And once again, I also want to add my voice to appreciate our audience and everybody who is here to join us to have this discussion. I just want us to also step back a little to look at the situation, the real situation on the ground. And a recent report from the World Bank tells us that as a country, there's a lot that is happening to the country, and if we are not very careful and take the needed action as is being required of us at this COP, action now. If we don't have that action now, we're going to have a lot of the population, about 1 to 5 million of the population, go below the poverty line, and also we're going to have economic losses that is running into millions. Having said that, partnership is very key. At the current global issues of financing, I'm not sure anybody can do it alone. So that's why there's a need for us to collaborate together. And as a country, with the opportunity that was extended to us just about 1.5 years ago, we've been able to demonstrate that partnership is very key. I'm saying this because when Ghana assumed the presidency of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, and also the chair for the Vulnerable 20, we were able to demonstrate that and be able to take this to a different level. And on two grounds. One, we've been able to forge ahead and be able to put in place what is required for the 68 vulnerable countries, and we stand a chance of benefiting moving forward. The other thing as a country is also being able to put forward what we will require, what we will need, and through that we've been able to develop the Climate Prosperity Plan, as Dr. Abnefo indicated, which we've highlighted a number of things that we will need. And I'm sure anybody who has not heard also need to be informed that Ghana is now going to host the the Climate Vulnerable Forum and the V20 Secretariat in Ghana, which is also an opportunity for us to leverage on moving forward. In terms of partnership, I'm sure we are also much aware that as a country, we passed the Public-Private Partnership Bill, and that is also a very key tool for us because we believe in partnership. What have we done with this? We're leveraging on this to make sure that financing is at scale. The other thing that is very key also as a country in terms of sustainability and also ensuring that we are able to forge ahead is also getting in place the sustainable banking principle that is going to ensure that the financial sector, form part of the backbone of us mobilizing needed financing. As somebody indicated, that financing is not going to fly in. Financing is within. We need to take advantage of that. So portion of their portfolio would also be in green. And initially we had difficulties, but gradually it's being picked up. So that is also very key. And for them to be able to do that, government took the lead, creating the enabling environment in which we got some funding and got the banks to come together to be able to on-lend and all that under the SunRef and also the Green Credit Line. The other most important thing that we have done is also coming out with the sustainable financing framework that is also going to guide in terms of how we approach and in terms of proceeds in the green bond arena. Even though we've never been able to proceed further because of the market, I think it's a good step for us because Ghana is among the few countries that have done that. And in terms of partnership again, I think it's very good that we do anchor the fact that at the global level, we have forged a good partnership. So Ghana stands tall when it comes to the Green Climate Fund, and I'm sure as Dr. Dotse proudly talks about the readiness that he's implementing, and as Roselyn also talked about the fact that the Ghana Shared Emission, Ghana Shared project ongoing and also supporting women and children because of the kind of partnership at the global level, and that's we've been able to access more than 700 million at various category, regional and global, national perspective. At least Ghana is among the few countries that have been able to access about 20 projects approved from the Green Climate Fund. When it comes to the Global Environment Facility, we're doing very well also there. When it comes to adaptation, very key. Under the Climate Investment Fund, recently we happen to have gotten about 100 million. Even though not enough, we believe that working and also ensuring that we can be able to achieve more. The other key partnership that I think I need to highlight is under the Global Shield that was launched exactly a year ago, Sharm el-Sheikh, and sometimes I always say that when history begins and you are there, and you are part of the process, the ending, telling the story is very unique. Ghana is one of the partner countries and have demonstrated that we are capable of getting things done. And before this COP, we managed to submit a proposal, and it's the first. And I'm sure that with the emotional story of Akosombo, the emotional story of the people living along the coast in Volta region, will be supported under the Global Shield. And we're looking beyond that to support the coastal areas where, as a result of tidal wave and as a result of climate effects, the coastal areas have been affected. And the study says 10 years, but when some of us happen to do a site tour within some of the areas, we have the view that we don't have 10 years, we have less than 5 years. So these are kind of partnership that government is doing, and this partnership is yielding. And beyond that, we believe that it will yield more. One very important sustainable financing that we are discussing has not come into fruition yet is debt swap. It's very important that we talk about this because vulnerable countries like Ghana are faced with issues of debt. That is why some of us have to run to IMF and be able to sustain financial space and also to ensure that the fiscal space become a little bit flexible. We believe that we should be able to swap some of our debt for financing, and we're looking at that. We've gotten a lot of interest, and our debt experts are on board, and we believe that very soon debt swap nature-based solutions will come on board, and is going to help us to ensure that we have the sustainable finance that we need. In terms of collaboration, I talked about Global Shield, the V20 and all that, but one very unique thing that I have encountered over the last 3 to 4 months is the collaborative that we're working with impact financing, and also I smile because HATOF Foundation has been very generous. Very generous in the sense that they're supporting the work that we are doing in terms of how we can fasten and also strengthen our mobilization of financing. I talked about the 700 million, talked about the global shield, talked about what we're going to get under the climate prosperity plan. But I think there's room for more because the funds are out there. We told the private sector alone holds about more than 3 trillions, and they need to offload this. How do we get this funding? That is why HATOF Foundation, in collaboration with Impact Ghana and also the GIZ back home, are supporting, working with the Ministry of Finance to make sure that we can get formidable proposals and also be able to access the needed financing to support the work in Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before I get back to the panelists, I want to give the opportunity for the community people who, for the first time in the history of Ghana's participation in the climate negotiation, have joined us. So I'll give them 1 minute. They can go around among themselves and see who should come and tell us why he or she is here and the message to the world. Because this is an official event. It's being screened across the globe, and it's going to be archived so long as this world exists. So who is coming? Thank you. Come and join me here.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Doctor. Welcome. A wonderful welcome to you all. My name is Daniel Amponse-Jinaye. I'm a cocoa farmer in Ghana, and I'm the chairman of the Esunafo, Esutifi Hotspot Intervention Area Management Board. I commend World Bank, the government of Ghana, which is represented by Forestry Commission and Ghana Cocoa Board, for the good work done for trying to help mitigate the impact of climate change. Red Plus, Ghana Cocoa for Red Plus program, is a timely intervention to save we cocoa farmers. We are a local community, and we depend on cocoa, and the impact of the climate change, in fact, was so severe and terrible. And as I stand here, anything that I do, I go back to think of my mother, who gave birth to 10 children and became a single mother, a single parent who taking care of 10 children, and 7 brave men and 3 ladies taking care of all of us, depending on the cocoa farm. And all of a sudden, the climate change problem came in, and because of that, my dear mother had to join her ancestors because the problem was too much for her. So when I took over as a farmer, and all of a sudden, this program came into being to help cocoa farmers. What I say all the time is that if this program has been during the time of my mother will still be existing. So thank you, donor partners, whoever is donating to help farmers, whoever is putting his or her money into funding climate change problem, we commend that person. We want more donor partners to join hands to come in to help us. We need to help the world. We need to save this, our world. Many people are suffering because of the climate change. People are dying, tsunamis here and there, droughts, famine, poverty. But what can we do? We have to sit down. We are farmers. We are committed to plant more trees. We are committed to do whatever this program tells us to do to mitigate climate change, to save this, our world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sometimes I get emotional when a mother is mentioned. I have my own story. So let me then give the opportunity to the floor. I'm going to call some people. I know they will not talk. So I'll call them, whether they agree or not. So let me leave 1 minute. So if I cannot see hands, then I'll start calling the people. Okay.
My name is Doris Bragwa-Komi. I work with the Ministry of Finance, PPP office. My question is to Mr. Jan, and any of our panelists could also help us. He spoke about the fact that most of our infrastructure were built without resilience in mind. And considering what has happened at Mepe, I'd like to find out from him that ever since that event occurred, have we as a country taken stock of such infrastructure projects, and what are we doing to make them resilient? Because today it's happened at Mepe. It could happen tomorrow at a different place. So I'd like to find out from him, as a country, have we taken stock of such infrastructure projects that were not built with resilience in mind, and what are we doing to make them more resilient? Thank you.
Any other person? Okay, from behind.
Thank you very much. And I think my question goes to Ruka. On partnership, you didn't mention, for instance, like you spent half of your time looking for funding and stand chart and the rest. And and the point you made on the fact that those who exit the program, they sometimes find difficulty getting funds. I would like to find out, what kind of partnership are you building internally, and especially amongst those you incubate, if I could use that word. Are there partnerships even amongst them that they could come together to harness maybe some funding, if it's outside or inside, to maximize the impact that they can bring out? That is one. Two, the other one goes to our friend from the Ministry of Finance. You mentioned, for instance, so many packages of fundings that have come in country, but still there seems to be a gap. Dr. Benefo mentioned, for instance, the energy transitions and all that. How can we maximize such experiences with the even little? You mentioned 700,000 relative to 2 billion a year. I think the 700 million, for instance, is over a certain period, and we are looking at 2 billion a year. How are we harnessing the experience for even these small ones so that we can get the impact at scale that we need? Thank you.
Another person? Okay, so I think, I can't remember exactly, but I'll give the opportunity to Professor Kluche to tell us, you know, before you look for money, like I think all of them agree that the project have to be technically and financially bankable. It must be responding to science. Is that not it? Very good. So she should tell us, what are we doing right and what are we not doing right?
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. What we are doing right, as in Ghana.
Yes.
I really can't tell, but from my point, as in my expertise, I do research typically, and from science and trying to see the impact of climate on the various sectors. In terms of dealing with the documentation of the actions or strategies we need to pay attention to, I would say, yes, we are doing right. But in terms of implementing the actions, I would say we are not doing right. Whatever reasons, there have been a lot of discussion. It could be finance, it could be not ready in the plan, it could be lack of expertise, it could be lack of understanding of the impact itself. So I believe we have a lot to do. We have the opportunity to do it. We just don't have the time because the impact is happening now. And these are not stories we are hearing from afar. We are experiencing them now. So we talk about impact of climate, and we do projections into the future. We talk about the impact of 1.5 and trying to make effort to keep global warming well below 2 degrees and all that. These are all sounding far in the future, but the impact is about now. So for us in our part of the globe, I believe we should not even be thinking or talking about the impact of 1.5. We should be talking about the impact of a now, because it's not about numbers again. It's about what we are going through currently. We have experienced so many irreversible damages, irreversible losses, and I think we should be frank and communicate our issues as they are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we should be frank and communicate our issues as they stand. So let's give the opportunity to the panel. Those who were giving some questions, they should respond. Then I just pick their thoughts generally. Then we can be on the way to go to our beds. Yes, could you?
The first question actually came to me.
Yes.
I must say that I don't think in the past climate issues were that, the impact of climate was that severe. And therefore, I think we did not take it into consideration when it came to projects. However, I still believe that there is a lot of talk now, and institutions are becoming more aware, professional bodies are becoming more aware. Foster had already mentioned that the banks, through the Bank of Ghana, has started the sustainable banking principles. So these days, projects that some years ago you could just send to a bank for it to be financed, there are other things that they will look at. So it's not just, there are institutions that have to come together to be able to achieve that. Professional bodies as well. And then I must also mention that I think that when it comes to project preparation, when it comes to the bidding process, where do those projects start? At part of the bidding process, there should be some aspect such that if there is any PPP project, as part of the bidding, there should be some climate aspect that should be inculcated, which should be part of the justification for the particular project, such that without that, the project cannot even pass and move to the next stage. I think that has to be done. And that is very critical. Without that, we will not be able to achieve it. Again, I think there is a lot of room for improvement. There is the need for us to have some form of capacity building within the country itself, because without capacity, sponsors will continue to do what they are used to doing, presenting projects, projects are just being normal, without taking into consideration the climate aspects of it. And then I also think that there's a need for us to have some form of concessionary funding for the additional cost of the projects. some patient capital that will be able to cater for that additional cost of making the projects more climate resilient or making them more climate friendly going into the future. If not, we will not be able to achieve what we want to achieve.
Thank you very much. Foster.
Yeah, thank you very much for just to add a little to what my brother John mentioned. I think even before the emotional disaster that happened in September, some study had been undertaken, and it was very clear that there's a need to look at our infrastructure with the lens of climate. So with the support of UNOPS and also the global, the GCA, a study was undertaken under the heading, the Roadmap for Climate Resilient Infrastructure. If you've seen that document, it highlights all the areas and even talked about the fact that some infrastructure need to be relooked at before disaster happens. So I think there's something that has been done. And I always say that Ghana is blessed because we are able to preempt, but the implementation and also execution is one of the critical issues that we need to look at. In terms of the inflows and the gaps that exist, I think it's been said, and I need to repeat, we need to be ready, we need to be ready, and we need to be ready, and not just ready. We need to have viable and bankable proposal ready with all the feasibility done. The reason why I'm saying this is that investors will never wait for you to get proposals done before they give you money. You need to justify why they need to give you financing. So I think it's very important that we look for a way of getting a number of bankable proposals, viable proposals, so that we can approach investors to support us as a country. But very critical of the gap is the fact that we need to look in country. And I'm saying this because there's something that we started under the environmental fiscal reform where we're looking at establishing a mimic of the Green Climate Fund. That's a Ghana Climate Fund, and we all have to put hands on deck to make sure that we can mobilize more the needed financing to support the agenda of climate change in country, because the issue is that we never caused it. Article 9 of the Paris Agreement makes it clear that our partners are supposed to support. But if you know the figures, as at this year, it's about 8.3 billion out of the 100 billion that was promised to us yearly. It tells you that we need to be prepared, because that is why we are vulnerable in the climate space. That is why we need to prepare, because when it happens, if you do the comparison between the global north and the global south, the global north is able to come together, salvage, and also recover quickly as compared to the global south.
Thank you very much.
It's very important that we come together, work together, and make sure that we get it done, and done very well. Thank you
very much. Madam Ruka.
Was asking me was related to whether the entrepreneurs themselves are coming together and they're maybe trying to pool funding or source funding. First and foremost, we very much encourage them to work like B2B, business to business. So if there is, if we're providing some grant funding for one organization, and we know that, so one enterprise, an alumni and climate entrepreneur can provide that service, we will always make sure that we connect them. We prefer to give our money to in those kind of partnerships. But I also do, we have a climate innovation, an association, right? A business network of our alumni organizations. And that organization is based on the model of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, where the big corporations, whether it's Nestle, Unilever, are really actively pushing for sustainability and business action, business climate action within their supply chains, etc. So there's a lot of work that association was created to do around sourcing the right kind of, whether it's technical assistance, the right kind of frameworks, the right kind of partnerships, and maybe, maybe even funding. But when it comes to sourcing financing for your business, you have to, you work with the person that you're sourcing money from, because they have to do their due diligence, whether it's legal, whether it's financial, whether it's supply chain, whatever. It's not going to be, it's not, crowdfunding is not what we, the entrepreneurs that we work with, because these are professional entrepreneurs. They're small and growing, but they're the formalized business sector as well. So they need to work with the prospective funder and provide all the necessary documents, the evidence that they're bankable, that they can, they can repay any debt that they take on, any loan that they take on, or if somebody's taking equity, that the people will get a return on their investment. So a whole range of things there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Akan, are there any hope for us?
Hope. But I think the one I want to put is this. So part of my job involves actually training organizations, small businesses, universities on resource mobilization and international funds or grantmanship. And I've discovered actually there's actually a big disconnect between the fact that there is a problem around the access to finance, the need for finance, the availability of finance, and also the accessibility to finance. And my work shows very clearly that actually, I'll give an example. I walk into a room, 200 SME owners. This happens across different countries, as a matter of fact. And I ask them, so how many of you, for example, can tell me the top 10 organizations that give funding in your field? I've been doing it for the last 10 years. Every time, less than 10% of people in the room can actually list the top 10 organizations that give funding in their field. You begin to wonder, well, how can you be looking for money and don't know who gives money? I can go as basic as possible. Myself, in the last, say, 3-4 years, I've won in excess of £40 million in grants. But that is because if you ask me, Doc, when last did you apply for grant? This morning, I applied for funding before I came here. Because if you do a Google search on your Google and say, well, international funding in this area, what you will find is a long, endless list of opportunities. They are there, people carry it on their phones. But it's a massive gap between the conversion of understanding opportunities and actually applying for them. I will go into a room. When last did I apply for funding? Well, 7 months ago. That makes no sense. There is too much opportunities for anybody, in my opinion, to be broke or to be looking for money. Do you even apply? Do you know who gives money? Do you know why they give money? On my laptop here, I've got an Excel spreadsheet of over 100 organizations that give funding in my field. I track them. I know when they give call for funding. I know why they give call for funding. I know what documentations they require to give call for funding. I know who they gave funding to last time. Because if I know they gave funding to 4 people in the last 2 years, I can track them. Dude, brother, sister, dear sir, I'm about to apply for the same funding you applied for and won. Is it okay if you partner with me, be an advisor to me, work with me, so I can apply for the same funding? You think if I have access to 4 applications that won funding in the last 3 years, I won't be able to apply for mine? And interestingly, all funders have one thing in common. They make everybody else know they give funding. As a matter of fact, I know many cases where the money they gave to market the giving of funding was more than the funding they actually gave. That means at some point, if you do a simple search, you will find out who they gave money to. Track it down. So what am I saying this in a nutshell? I am tired, really, of just going everywhere in Africa and people are looking for money, but nobody's actually applying for money. It makes no sense. So fundamentally, at the very basic level, just training people and giving them simple guidance and processes of how to access funding, maybe it's a good start. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Roselyn, we have been in this business. Your closing.
And link it to what Foster mentioned. The fact that we want to set up a climate fund, or I don't know what it is we want to do. The question is, who are we training to bring in that fund? It's a very big question. And I see that in most instances, we are not even able to maximize what we have already. There are organizations in Ghana or institutions in Ghana that have been able to attract some level of climate financing into the country. Question is, who has even asked them? How were you able to do this? You will just keep finding them in reports, or maybe EPA got this, or there's an Article 6 framework, something that has been signed, Forestry Commission got this. I'm looking for a time when someone who is putting that into the budget, into a very strategic document, will say, well, let me have a strategic meeting with this person. How were you able to do this? What sort of resources did you put together? And it buttresses what Doc was saying. We keep saying that we need the funding, but we are not building the capacity, and we're not even asking the people who are even able to make strides every day. Coming to COP28, so many people are here. We are talking about climate finance. I asked a startup yesterday, I mean, they are here to do business, side events. My question was, you need money. You're here to do side events. In what way are the side events going to get you money? And the response was like, imagine. So you're coming to COP28, you're just coming here to come and walk about, do one side event just because you have people in your circle. But you are not really looking at the levers that would bring you the money from that side event. So that would be what I'm going to end with. I have never come into any COP meeting in the last 5 years or so of my engagement without having a strategic plan. I keep telling my colleagues I have a plan, a number of years. I'm very strategic. I'm not just walking about. And that's how we need to engage. Otherwise, we'll just be in this fanfare of COP engagements. This whole place is so much different from all the COP places I've been to. Just walk about, maybe lose some kilos, that would be good for me. And then just go back home with nothing and keep saying that the global North should give us money. But there are spaces where there are some money. They are not enough, but there are, and we are not tapping into that full potential.
Thank you very much. Doc. Yes, you are the focal point. What advice, or do you have any emerging collaborative efforts that you can share with us? But before you do that, let me acknowledge the presence of Madame Adjei. She's Foster's boss. Foster didn't. She's a very powerful woman. Okay, Doc.
Thank you. I want to say three things. The first one is that, do we know enough to act on climate action? The answer is yes. Are we doing enough based on what we know? The answer is obviously no. But are we doing something? Yes. Question is that, what do we need to do? We need to scale up. And I wanted to end with this point. Since January, right, we've been working with many companies to unlock carbon finance. Many companies. And under one arrangement with the Switzerland government, all right, which was signed in 2020, I'll say some few words. Under that agreement, there are 15 companies in Ghana that are making it. Out of those 15 companies, they're private companies, 6 of them are investing in these areas. They're investing in electric mobility, waste to compost, clean cooking, efficient green cooling processes. There are 6 of them. And guess what they are looking at investing? The total sum of the investment is around $500 million. And the value of the carbon is $150 million. And the tax revenue that is coming to Ghana government is $30 million. This is 6 projects. And those projects are led by private companies, not us. My point is that in the midst of not doing enough, we have good examples like what my sister is doing and others are doing to scale up. And that, I think, for me, is a very powerful statement, that we can learn more and scale up and make the people on the ground benefit. Otherwise, it remains an unending cycle of promises. And that is what we are doing on the other side of this place. that we keep promises, making promises, and we don't deliver. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We keep promises, we make promises, we never deliver. I think on that beautiful note, let me, on behalf of my team, thank everybody for your time. And next year, inshallah, we may either go to Brazil or Australia. Thank you very much. Yeah, so now we have to take a group photo by my team so that we are out of here.